We are not even halfway through the 2020 to 2021 NBA season, and it's way too early to speculate on free agency for the 2021 to 2022 season, but we're gonna do it anyway. This year's offseason will be far better than last year's, and while some teams still went all out to keep their best players, other teams stood pat without making any big moves. The Bucks signed Drew Holiday, the Nets signed James Harden, and Chris Paul was traded to the Phoenix Suns. With Chris Paul's contract having a player option in his 4th year, he'll be in this year's free agency pool as well. Again, considering that the Lakers still have AD and LeBron James, the Nuggets with Murray and Jokic, not to mention the heavy hitters in the East, there are so many talented teams that could vie for a championship this year. Let's not forget the Utah Jazz. With this in mind and injuries plaguing the Warriors, we might have a peek into why the Warriors have been so quiet. Eerily quiet. Not only did the team not make any power moves last offseason, they've been quietly recovering this year as well, not moving any of the team's assets while trying to fast-track the development of star rookie James Wiseman. Maybe, just maybe, there's a method to the madness. My job here is to try and figure out what Bob is thinking, and I think I've finally got it. Stay till the end of the video if you would like to know it as well.
Hey, what's happening everyone? This is Swish. If you're new to the channel and like the content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as it helps the channel a ton. Thanks and welcome to Swish Culture.
Now, before I get into it, everybody, if you joined the channel for the post-game breakdowns or just want to see those in general, don't forget to sub to my other channel, Swish Culture Streams. I do all my live streaming on that channel as well as post-game discussions and interactions. It's a fun time over there, so get there ASAP. Now on to the good stuff. While a few teams are trying desperately to win a championship this year, it is no surprise that there will be a lot of moves being made by teams next offseason to snag what could be the final piece of their puzzle to win a title. Let's preface the peek into next offseason's madness with a bit of what we've seen so far this season, and how it should culminate into a climaxing event for this one particular team. The Lakers are last year's champions, and as such are a shoo-in for the title this year, as they still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Yes, Anthony Davis is out temporarily due to injury, but LeBron is surrounded by enough talent to help this team through some hard times. Right? The Lakers' aspirations are no secret, and the goal this year is for a second title in as many years. That being said, it will not be that easy. Teams from both the Eastern and Western Conference are looking to unseat the Lakers, and believe it or not, they do have valid title aspirations that should be taken seriously. With so many teams within earshot of winning a title this year, best believe that aside from the team that eventually wins, every other team will be trying to get this superstar come off season to take them to the next level. The first thought that comes to mind is to go to last year's runner-up. That would be the Miami Heat. Problem is, the Heat have not been playing anywhere near the level of talent that they displayed in last year's playoffs. With an 11-17 record as of this recording, they are currently ranked 11th in the East, which, considering the amount of talent at the top of each conference, they are all but irrelevant to mention at this point. Unless the Heat make some serious adjustments, they are unlikely to even make the playoffs this year. The trio of Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler have been leading the Heat in scoring, but the Heat as a whole have been suffering immensely from beyond the arc. The starter with the highest three-point percentage is currently Bam at 40%, ahead of even Duncan Robinson. Obviously Duncan is a better shooter, however teams are playing him as an elite shooter and making it difficult for him to score. He's shooting it at just over 37%. Tyler's next at around 35% and Goran Dragic at 30%. Without outside scoring in the modern NBA, a team like the Miami Heat will struggle until the shots start falling. If the Heat manage to miss the playoffs this season, look for Pat Riley to make some significant changes to the roster. With the Miami Heat all but out of the equation, let's look elsewhere. After a second-round exit last year, the Milwaukee Bucks revamped with the heist of the century by stealing the best two-way guard right from under the collective noses of the New Orleans Pelicans, and Pelicans fans are angry. Well, that's only half true. I mean, the Pelican fans are quite unhappy with the trade, but the rest is kind of just window dressing. With Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton flanking him, Giannis looks to make his debut in the Eastern Conference Finals as one of the few teams in the East that could potentially take a bite out of LeBron's legacy. From a numbers standpoint, the Bucks have the firepower to get the job done offensively, as they are top 3 in the league in that regard. Defensively, the Bucks are middle of the pack, but with Giannis holding the title of Defensive Player of the Year and Drew being a top defensive guard, they should be able to lock down come playoffs. If Drew and Chris can fulfill their role as shooters and give Giannis room to operate in the paint, the Bucks should go a lot farther than they did last year with Eric Bledsoe. Drew is a significant upgrade from Bledsoe and could be just what the Bucks need to get over that second round hump. If they meet the Lakers in the finals, expect Giannis to turn up to another level. If you want to know what I mean, watch the last 10 minutes of the 2020 NBA All-Star Game. There's no guarantee that the Bucks are enough to beat the Lakers, however, and actually lost in their first matchup this year. In this scenario, I think the Lakers win in 6. This means the Bucks will have to find someone else to pair with Giannis to compete. Another powerhouse in the East, the Seth Curry-led 76ers. With a little help from Joel Embiid, who occasionally comes out from injury to help Seth win a few games here and there on his way to a championship. The Sixers are one of the toughest matchups in the Eastern Conference this year. To make matters worse, this is all a plot to make Steve Kerr and Steph Curry look bad. The Sixers currently have the best record in the East, and with the addition of Doc Rivers and former Rockets GM Daryl Morey, are able to take on any opponent, including the Chinese government. We are still uncertain if they'll be able to beat the resurgence of the Los Angeles Clippers, however, because if you recall, Seth Curry's unfinished business turned playoff P into playoff P. Ruined playoff reputations aside, the Sixers lost to Kawhi once, and Kawhi is therefore the monster in Joel Embiid's closet. Will Embiid be able to beat the Lakers? In their one matchup, the Sixers managed to pull off a very close win over the Lakers with both teams at full capacity. So this would make things very close in the finals and would be a very exciting matchup to watch. Yes, this team could possibly unseat the Lakers. If they don't, however, expect this team to be on the lookout for trades, likely a superstar to pair with Embiid. And now for the third powerhouse in the East. The Nets mortgaged their past, present, and future to gain a third superstar in James Harden. This team, more than any before, is an absolute chip or bust. With the sign and trade of an injured KD fresh off a finals run in 2019, the Nets managed to will their way through last year's playoffs without any of their stars. The COVID-19 pandemic rippled through the league, and Kyrie had hitched a ride on a time machine back a couple thousand years ago. Rumor has it that he went to find Moses. Either way, with a promising core plus a couple of superstars, the Nets started out the year by beating on the Warriors, sending a clear message to the league. They then proceeded to lose games to the Hornets and the Cavaliers, with KD getting posterized by 6-foot-tall Terry Rozier. The Nets revamped with James Harden, trading away Jarrett Allen, a promising center, as well as Taurean Prince, but the jury is still out on what exactly this does for them, as their offensive firepower is currently unrivaled, but defensively, they seem to be lacking in the ability to keep up with other teams. If the Nets don't win the championship this year, they will be looking for a way to fix this problem. You know what they say, defense wins championships. Another team that may just be one superstar away from a chip is the Boston Celtics. With Tatum and Brown leading the charge for the young team, they may be looking to make a wager in this 2021 offseason as well. They lost Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward in successive years to the Charlotte Hornets, however they still have enough talent at the guard and forward positions. They might look to shore up the center position with some more talent, and with other teams likely looking to move talented players to acquire superstar talent, there just may be a few teams interested in moving theirs to make the numbers work. All that being said, there will be some competition this offseason as teams jockey to get their hands on the most talented players that will be available, whether due to free agency or teams looking to clear cap space. This is when Bob Myers will strike. When Bob Myers acquired KD in 2016, no one was expecting the 7-foot sniper to sign to the Warriors. With the Nets having their three-headed monster, the stakes are even higher, and teams will be under immense pressure if they manage to somehow pull off a win over the Lakers. This includes even the Lakers themselves, of course. The good thing for the Warriors is that this next superstar doesn't want to play with LeBron, but he does want to stay close to home. He's been a title journeyman of sorts, and I think by now you've figured out that I'm talking about Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi is the #1 free agent in this year's pool, and every one of the teams I mentioned above could be looking in his direction, depending on how the 2020 finals play out. The Warriors have a handicap over teams in the East because we all know Kawhi would rather stay relatively close to home. They also have one over the Lakers because, well, they have LeBron, and Kawhi would much rather beat LeBron than to win with him. The Warriors also would be perfect because while he can perform in the moments he needs to, there will be less of those moments playing alongside Steph and Clay. His scoring load will be significantly reduced, and at the worst, he'd be looked at in the same way as KD, but with much less backlash considering the Nets' current lineup, and the fact that LeBron is still likely recruiting him to play with the Lakers this offseason as well. It would only make sense for Kawhi to sign with the Warriors instead. Clay has never been listed as a top 5 player, and for Kawhi to join 2 top 5 players would be a detriment to his record. Staying with the Clippers when they lose will only guarantee his legacy in mediocrity. If he does sign with the Warriors, it's a case to be argued that the level of talent is somewhere between the Lakers and the Nets, but the Warriors have a much better chance to win than either due to the fact that the Warriors have much more depth at the 5 starting positions. I expect games to have a lot more fans at that point in time, and as such, the Chase Center will promise enough cash to make these moves and maybe even structure Kawhi's salary to something more favorable. He is set to make $37 million next year, which is $6 million more than Wiggins. Common sense dictates that a sign and trade that sends Wiggins, Minnesota's pick, Warriors first, and filler to the Clippers would net the superstar, instead of leaving the Clippers with no return on their investment. If this is Bob's endgame and he acquires Kawhi in free agency, it's a wrap for the rest of the league. This could be why he wasn't concerned about going after James Harden in free agency, and if he makes no roster moves or only clears some cap space, you can bet the Kawhi card is in play. And that's it for today's video. If you think Bob may try to sign Kawhi, or if you'd rather keep Wiggins, or if you think someone other than the Warriors will sign Kawhi in the upcoming offseason, for example, will he possibly even go back to the Spurs, or maybe even the Rockets? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. Till next time.
I block so hard, Smitty gets served. Call me Lonzo Ball, bitches get swerved.
Usually I don't get down with these girls, but tonight it's on my mind, so I might eat these words. I just wanna